I've hunted down every single deleted scene in SpongeBob history, and trust me, these scenes were deleted for a reason. Whether it be that they were too violent, mature, or even just plain old too scary. See what I mean? I'm feeling like starting this video off with a bang, and thankfully, just one bite has got us covered in that department.
And water? This is gas.
Squid's ear-piercing screams never get old. Things kick off at the Krusty Krab, where Squidward is in the same sour mood he's always in.
It's disgusting. They're sickening. I hate Krabby Patties.
Good one, Squidward.
Honestly, after seeing that guy gargle frackin' mayo, I think I'd be singing the same tune. SpongeBob thinks Squid's joking about hating Krabby Patties, as everyone knows that the only people who don't like a Krabby Patty have never tasted one. It turns out the saying is true, too, as Squidward has not only never had a Krabby Patty, but also refuses to ever try one. SpongeBob does his best to convince Squiddy to try the patty, but even after such riveting tactics, like pulling the burger from behind his ear, Squid ain't convinced. When all else fails, the sponge says that Krabby Patties are, well...
No, Squidward, I meant good for your soul.
Oh, please. I have no soul.
Squidward in hell. Yeah, that checks out. With all other options exhausted, SpongeBob resorts to constant bargains with Squidward to give the patty a try. Anywhere and everywhere. In the bathroom, in the sink, even in the trash. Finally, Squidward gives in and agrees to take just one bite on a singular condition.
When I die, you stay away from my funeral.
Squid very reluctantly takes a tiny nibble of the patty and...
Why, this Krabby Patty may be the most...
horrible, putrid, poorly prepared, vile, unappetizing, disgusting excuse for a sandwich.
You get the point. Squid hates the thing to the point that he buries it, crushes SpongeBob's heart. Hey, maybe he's not so sure.
Are you sure?
Does this look unsure to you?
That face is haunting my nightmares tonight. However, as soon as SpongeBob sulks away, Squid's real opinions shine on through, with him desperately digging up his sandy patty and chowing down. And he called the guy gargling mayo disgusting. Ha! Squid realizes he's gotta have more, but there's one issue.
After that performance, he'd never let me live it down. I gotta sneak one.
Pride cometh before the patty, I suppose. Oh, so wait, how did his eyes move like that? Squid asks for an extra special patty from SpongeBob, pretending it's an order from a customer. But when the patty's ready, SpongeBob decides that he wants to see the customer enjoy the special sandwich himself. And when nobody turns up to nab it,
A patty this special should be eaten fresh, and I haven't had one of these babies in over 20 minutes, so... Well, whoever they were, they had great taste.
gotta love how he couldn't contain his gasp. Now we know Squidward's a full-on patty addict. Squid's little vice is only furthered when he decides to eat a patty out of the garbage. Or at least he tries to. And somehow, he misses the darn patty. Again, you think you're less disgusting than the mayo gargler, Squiddy. Anywho, SpongeBob catches the half-eaten patty and rushes to give it the proper send-off it deserves. Cremation.
But it means so much that you came.
I'm sure that was even sadder for Squidward than it was for SpongeBob. That night, while Squid's at home slumped in his chair, he gets a special visitor. And they all lived happily ever after, until Squiddy woke up. Yep, Squidward's having dreams of marrying patties, meaning he's got to get his hands on a Krabby Patty ASAP. But first, he's going to have to get into the Krusty Krab, and unfortunately, Mr. K's got a state-of-the-art security system up. A bucket of water. Oh, Eugene, always cutting corners to save money.
There must be some kind of security. This is our burglar alarm? A bucket of water? Too easy. This is gas.
Okay, lesson learned. Mr. Krabs does not play games. At least Squid's in one piece. Oh, great heavens! Yeah, that's gotta be one of the most brutal security systems ever. In fact, it's so brutal that it caused the scene to be cut from the episode. Probably made the right call there. After that display of hyper-violence, Squid makes it to the patty vault, pops it open, and is just about to gorge himself before SpongeBob shows up to start his 3 a.m. shift, catching Squidward red-handed. Or tentacled, I guess.
You like Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward?
Yes, I admit it, SpongeBob. I love Krabby.
In the immortal words of Candace Flynn, busted. I mean, he's really going to town on them. SpongeBob tries to slow him down, but by the time he's able to tell Squid he's in danger, it's too late.
What's gonna happen? Am I gonna blow up?
No, worse!
My thighs?
And then you blow up.
I'd like to point out that this is the 3rd time that Squidward has blown up in one day. Poor guy. Squidward's time doesn't get any easier in the episode. SpongeBob in Random Land either.
Good Neptune, you're hideous.
You too, but somehow you still retain your allure.
You can trust me when I say that the episode lives up to its name. Once more things start at the Krusty Krab. Squid takes a call that's asking for delivery to Random Land, a place where everyone is cuckoo and the laws of nature flip-flop on a whim. So, New Jersey. While Squidward doesn't want to take the order, Eugene desperately wants the moolah and has someone who's just as cuckoo enough to take the job. Can you guess what he's talking about? One issue, nobody knows how to get to Random Land, so you just kind of have to walk around randomly.
That's how I usually get around.
We've got an expert in our hands, guys! Oh, be careful! SpongeBob takes off, but at the last second, Mr. Krabs sends Squidward to tag along, and so the two start doing their random walks. After a while, Spongy pops out of existence, and naturally, Squidward is devastated.
I'm gone, hallelujah, SpongeBob gone, I don't give a tune. How in the world?
Noted. The only rule Random Land follows is the rule of karma. The boys keep wandering through Random Land until they see a bunch of other delivery guys who are still lost, looking for a customer. Luckily, Squidward finds someone who will take the delivery order, and to him, one delivery is as good as any other. But to SpongeBob, he vows to give the food to the proper customer, meaning this gal's out of luck. I think she was just gonna eat whatever she could get her hands on. Squid asks for the address and realizes they need to be looking for 86 Screwball Street. Fitting name considering some of the residents.
Did you order a Krabby Patty?
Can I dunk it in cuckoo like my marshmallows?
I'm really trying to avoid saying things like, well, that just happened, but I mean, after visiting an upside-down house, the order is snatched by the woman from earlier and the two make a mad dash to catch her. Emphasis on mad. I'm glad the artists and animators are having fun, but what the hell is happening? They catch up to the girl and apparently all she wanted was the bag. I never want to visit Random Land if this is how the locals act. The two decide to try and find a way home, but are cornered by a whole lot of doors, with one being a bit more insane than the rest.
Oh, this place is a nightmare. No one's ever returned. We're doomed to live in this insane asylum.
Yeah, that's a random jump scare in a SpongeBob episode, which definitely freaked out a lot of kids and in turn got the scene removed from future broadcasts. However, it's actually even creepier when you realize that this is a direct reference to a hyper-violent creepypasta from the early 2010s about a lost and haunted SpongeBob episode titled Red Mist. In it, Squidward, let's just say he doesn't treat himself very nicely. Thankfully, they babyfied the scene in future broadcasts. Literally. Back to the episode, though, the two see someone who looks to be Mr. Krabs heading through one of the doors and decide to follow him home. They finally make it out of Random Land, but quickly realize the truth.
Excuse me, I'm not Krabs, and I walked all the way from 86 Screwball Street to complain.
So yeah, that's the guy they've been trying to deliver to, and with the order late, he's getting his meal for free. I hope Eugene learned his lesson. Never send anyone to Random Land. We're moving from creepy pastas to creepy ghost ships with Shanghai.
I don't know, Squidward. That ship has a spooky green glow around it.
That's probably because its good-for-nothing owner is too lazy to clean.
The creepiest part of this one, though, is probably how many scenes have vanished into thin air. We're starting this one off with some lost media. The episode starts with Patchy the Pirate. He tells the audience that they're about to watch one of his favorite episodes, Shanghai, before promptly getting launched out of a cannon by Potty.
Get me out of here, you scurvy bird!
2 words. Couple goals. Oddly enough, rebroadcasts of this episode don't usually come with this intro, meaning, yep, you just watched a deleted scene. Anywho, the actual episode starts as any good day does, with a bowl of cereal complete with a prize inside. Though this prize is a bit more than SpongeBob would have anticipated.
Holy shrimp! Squidward! The sky had a baby from my cereal box! Squidward!
I couldn't have phrased it any better myself. Squidward breaks the news to SpongeBob that it's not a baby, it's an anchor, and leaves the spongy yellow fella and Patrick to explore it before it rams into his own place. Now he needs to give the anchor dropper a piece of his mind. The 3 climb the rope and reach an eerie green ship, but can't quite pinpoint who owns it.
No, it's not.
SpongeBob's as oblivious as he is absorbent and porous. After Squidward's properly attended to by the Dutchman, SpongeBob and Patrick are up next, obviously. They gotta get out of Dodge.
You're next.
That was a close one.
Welcome back.
These physics remind me of Random Land, and now I'm promptly terrified. After the Dutchman blasts Squidward even more for good measure, he informs the neighbors that they're now cursed to be part of his crew and scare the innocent townsfolk forever. Squidward's not on board with the idea, obviously, and so the Dutchman shuts them up for good.
Oh, now what? I suppose you're gonna show me. Oh, gee, that's very nice. Oh, what is this? Some kind of magic act?
That scene always scared me when I was a kid, but they never cut that one. The crew gets to work kicking off the night with a couple of howls. You already know I have to play this clip. Classic, if not pathetic on Patrick's part. Speaking of pathetic on Patrick's part, let's talk about his boating skills.
Keep going. You're good. You're good. You're good. And stop.
That's anything but good. The Dutchman drags the boys along to try and terrify the civilians of Bikini Bottom, but quickly realizes that they aren't exactly privy to scaring, as they miss their cues and come across as just freckin' dorks. Honestly, I'd still be scared. They popped up out of nowhere. After their night shifts, the Dutchman sends the boys to their bunks where they eagerly wait for their next task. Turns out, the Dutchman doesn't think the crew made for eternity thing is working out.
This whole crew for eternity thing isn't working out. It's not really you so much as it is me.
You're setting us free?
Well, actually, I'm just gonna eat you. See you at dinner.
That's the ultimate pink slip. The two decide to book it, but the only way out is through the perfume department, so don't ask. After...
Let's do it.
that, the boys make it to the Dutchman's quarters and overhear him telling his radio diary about his dining sock, which you can't eat without. Can you guess where this goes? They take the sock, and in exchange for its return, the Dutchman offers the boys a deal. They give him back the sock, and he'll give them
3 wishes.
Make it 5.
4.
3. Take it or leave it.
I have no words to chalk up the amount of stupidity I just witnessed. No words! To make matters worse, Pat blows the first wish on setting the time back a little, and SpongeBob wishes Squiddy could be there to see this.
Boy, I'm glad all that's over.
Squidward! You're back!
I'm pretty sure Squidward would have preferred his last hell over being brought back to this one. After the boys fight amongst themselves over who gets the last wish, the Dutchman decides to play Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo and lands on SpongeBob, giving him the final one. To turn the Dutchman into a vegetarian so he can't eat them.
You did it, SpongeBob. We're safe.
But why have we been turned into fruits?
Hey, I get a wish too.
I guess I should have read the fine print with the wishes. However, this wasn't always the intended ending, as when Shanghai first aired, the ending was left to a phone-in vote by the viewers. The other endings involved Squidward wishing he never met SpongeBob or Patrick and having his wish backfire, and Patrick wishing for...
Oh, I'm sorry. Want some gum?
You wished for...
According to him, minty breath in an eternal prison takes priority over not being in that prison in the first place. And of course, both Pat's and Squidward's wishes ended in...
Don't be so mean.
Minty.
Can't say I'm surprised. What I can say I'm surprised by is the fact that this next one has a whopping 3 deleted scenes. Which vile episode could even possibly be risque enough for that? The one that has this. Yeah, Procrastination. Not the one you were expecting, huh? The episode starts out with Mrs. Puff assigning an 800-word essay on what not to do at a stoplight. And while that doesn't sound very exciting, someone's into it.
Did you hear that? We got an assignment.
Teachers' pets always get on your nerves, I swear. So SpongeBob gets right to work on his essay, whipping out everything he needs. A trusty number 2 pencil, some sheets of paper, and of course, imagination. Can't take myself seriously. He jots down a title and his name before beginning to brainstorm for hours. It doesn't even manage to get another word down. Well, I mean, maybe he just needs to look outside for some inspiration.
Come on, SpongeBob!
Believe it or not, that bit of Patrick rubbing sunscreen on Sandy was banned. Apparently, censors thought it looked suggestive and wanted it out. You let SpongeBob make a don't drop the soap joke, but this is where you draw the line? And the unreal amounts of censorship don't stop there, as after SpongeBob copes with all the fun he's missing out on, he looks to the brighter side of the situation with the completion of his essay.
Step closer to my driver's license.
All right, do me a favor, lean in close here.
Can you guess what part the censors wanted to delete this time? It was the car crash. They didn't want the car crash shown.
Apparently, they didn't want kids to try and crash cars on their own. But again, this happens all the time for SpongeBob, so why are they getting out of this now? But believe it or not, we've got one more bogus scene slashing ahead of us as SpongeBob decides to get some blood rushing to his head to help him get some writing ideas.
Hop, hoo, hop, hoo, hop, hoo, hop, hoo.
Hop, ho, hop, ho, hop, ho, hop, ho.
I mean, every writer has their special way around writer's block. It's just that SpongeBob's is apparently too phallic for TV standards. Yep, this scene had to be cut because SpongeBob's nose moving up and down resembled still a stretch in my book, but whatever, man. After some chair squeaking, relatable, SpongeBob tires to get back to work, but Gary slithers in and gives Spongy the perfect out of working yet again. He piles Gary's food to the ceiling and says he's gonna make sure Gary eats every bite.
Gary, are you sure you don't want some creme brulee? Or some chocolate-flavored algae bits?
We've got the next competitive eater on our hands. Joey Chestnut, you met your match, brother. Gary leaves a tiny mess, and so SpongeBob cleans it up and sees this as the perfect time to tidy up the rest of the kitchen as well, leaving it absolutely spotless. One issue, that took a hot 4 hours. Running out of time, SpongeBob decides to lock in and really grind out the essay. He starts pouring his sweat and tears into the paper with his pencil literally smoking by the end of his work. And that's gotta be some essay, by the way, if that's happening.
Now let's see how it looks so far.
All that time wasted just to get some Victorian lettering? Even as a kid, I thought that was worth it. This essay better end up Shakespearean, brother. SpongeBob calls Patrick to procrastinate yet again, but Pat sees through it and quickly hangs up. After choking on an eraser shaving, Spongy starts to make himself a sandwich before he gets a package and starts making awful small talk.
You like delivering mail?
It puts bread on the table.
Rye or pumpernickel?
Honestly, I know we're all supposed to hate awful jokes like that, but I kind of like it. Maybe this mailman won't hate it?
Don't you have a paper to write?
How did he know I'm supposed to be writing an essay?
Not only did he hate it, but he shut SpongeBob down in the most devious and mysterious way possible. That's cold. Things get stranger from there, with even the news reporting on SpongeBob wasting valuable essay time. After shorting his house's electricity, Sponge gets a candle and starts seeing like some of the strangest things you'll ever see. A horrifying living chair, a never-ending hallway, his own parents running away from him, an evil talking clock, and the cherry on top of all of it,
Only 799 words to go. No!
These are some Alice in Wonderland levels of trippy awfulness here. Eventually, SpongeBob wakes up from his dream. Yep, that was still a nightmare. And with only 5 minutes left before class, writes his entire paper basing all the things to not do at a stoplight on what he did in his dream.
Oh, it's almost 9 o'clock! Class starts in 5 minutes!
He rushes his work to Mrs. Puff before she gives him the bad news. The assignment was canceled, and the class is just gonna take a field trip to a spotlight instead. I'd rip myself in half too, and I'm not even a sponge. We go from the torture of the education system to a deleted torture room scene with Snowball Effect, and if you remember how insane Squidward ends up in this one, the fact that this deleted scene exists may not even surprise you.
Fort Squidward is now all but impenetrable!
Imagine hearing those laughs in a dark alley. Ugh. After an iceberg brings snow to Bikini Bottom, everyone starts getting into the winter spirit. Patrick in particular tries busting out a snow angel, but he may have gotten a bit too ambitious as he makes a snow circle instead. To continue his run of bad luck, Pat gets smacked in the face with a snowball and takes a few minutes before realizing SpongeBob is challenging him to a snowball fight. The pink guy goes to make a snowball and...
What? Oh! SpongeBob!
Okay, maybe this guy's a lot smarter than he seems. Those are way more complicated than a ball. When SpongeBob teaches Pat how to properly make a ball, the fight is on, which isn't good news for Squidward, who's trying to enjoy some peace and quiet. Despite his neighbor's pleas, Squid wants nothing to do with the fight, yet still gets caught up in the crossfire eventually. Can a snowball even put out a fire that fast? Why am I acting that actually? This is an underwater fire we're talking about. Oh, then no, that's still possible. Man, Earth is weird. The battle rages on, and Pat gets a bunch of balls blasted in the back of his throat. Snowballs! Snowballs! Sorry, YouTube, gotta emphasize that one. Pat runs over to Squid's place to get help, but is still choking on snowballs and can't speak. He eventually swallows the melted snowball water, but it must have gotten right through him because he kinda needs to use the bathroom right after.
What?
Can I use your bathroom?
Patrick, go use your own bathroom.
Please?
No.
Please?
No.
Please?
Okay, make it quick.
That's okay.
Great, that's fantastic. I'm happy for him. SpongeBob thinks Squiddy's trying to join Patrick's side, and so he tosses a snowball at him and again extinguishes the fireplace. Squid reassures the two that he's on nobody's side and leaves them to knock each other's brains out, but realizes the silver lining of that situation.
Now there's something I'd actually like to see. Front row seat, I suppose.
I hope he doesn't literally want to watch brains be knocked out, because, yeah, that'd be a witness to murder, and he'd be charged for 10 years in prison. Shoutouts to No Villains Are Safe. Unfortunately for Squidward, SpongeBob and Patrick signed a peace treaty, causing Squid to rush out and try to get the war back on, eventually deciding to join the war to try and entice them.
What? You two, please stop throwing snowballs!
Ouch, man. At that distance, that'd have to sting. Squid returns fire, and the battle's back on, with Squid getting ganged up on by SpongeBob and Patrick. Squidward, being snowmanified, causes him to snap and finally toss a ball of his own, only plunging him further into his snow madness.
Incoming!
Hey, SpongeBob!
Yes, Patrick?
I think Squidward's taking this really seriously. That last one had his clarinet.
Great heavens, that's a concussion right there. Those woodwinds don't give. Patrick and SpongeBob sneak away, leaving Squid some time to make a fort. A massive fort, to be exact. A fort that I always wanted to build when I was a kid. And of course, Squid only continues to lose his sanity.
Taste my frozen fury! Well, I got you now!
Those eyes tell the stories of 1,000 snow wars. Meanwhile, SpongeBob and Patrick are chilling at home and watching TV. They've completely switched roles. Though here's the crazy part of this all. There was initially going to be a scene where we get to see the interior of Squidward's fort, complete with a full-on torture room that he wanted to use on SpongeBob and Patrick. I mean, hey, what snow fort is complete without one, really? I mean, we've got a stretching rack, a bunch of ice hooks, and a guillotine. That's already claimed a bunch of victims. That's pretty grisly to think about. Obviously, this one is a bit too violent for a kid's cartoon, but oh, sweet Neptune, what could have been? Though on the topic of too violent for kids, we can't forget about Scaredy Pants and this infamous ending.
Hey, what do you know? I scared him! Ah!
I have nightmares to this day about brainy SpongeBob, and at one point it was even more gruesome. We'll get to that. It's Halloween in Bikini Bottom, and everyone's enjoying the frights, except for SpongeBob.
Okay, Mr. Krabs, I'm leaving.
This guy's letting an order rack scare him that much. I'd love to see how he'd react to horror movies, maybe a Terrifier movie or two. Just before SpongeBob makes it out, though, Mr. Krabs pulls the absorbent one aside and tells him a scary story. The tale of the Flying Dutchman, the evil pirate who flies into Bikini Bottom on a pirate ship.
The Flying Dutchman swoops down and starts stealing people's souls.
Do souls look like pickles?
As a matter of fact, they do.
Oh, there you go. Souls look like pickles. Good to know.
I've come for your pickle.
Never mind, not good to know. Out of context, that sounds so very wrong. On his way back home, SpongeBob continues to have even the slightest thing scare his socks off. Heck, even his own jack-o'-lantern freaks him out. When Patrick spooks him with some novelty glasses, Spongy decides that it's his turn to be scary, and the two get to work making a Flying Dutchman costume for SpongeBob. With some interesting creative decisions, to say the least.
Step into these babies, Hans. Terrifying.
I don't know why, but that's something I quote to this day. What the hell was Patrick even thinking? Some trick-or-treaters come up to SpongeBob's place, giving him the perfect opportunity to test a scare factor. Unfortunately, he doesn't faze them. Quite the contrary.
Look, it's the haunted mattress.
Okay, here's your candy.
That was enough of a treat. Thank you.
Laughing at him and calling his costume a treat? What is it with older SpongeBob fish being so mean for no reason? Do I even have to bring up this guy? When Patrick brings out a paper ghost, SpongeBob realizes that to truly become the ghost of the Flying Dutchman and look scary, he needs to be round. And so Patrick seats his buddy in a barber chair and shaves him down to make him round. Finally, the two are ready to bring terror to the streets of Bikini Bottom.
I'm the Flying Dutchman.
I'm the Flying Dutchman's best friend!
Don't you kids want your candy?
Okay, maybe I wouldn't exactly call that terror, but as long as they're happy, I'm happy. The two buddies decide to crash the Krusty Krab Halloween party, which is,
Oh, Dad, you're embarrassing me again.
the party's going swimmingly. Let's just say that, I suppose. And then Patrick kills the lights to the place and drops SpongeBob down to horrify the partygoers, even doing a whole maniacal voiceover to seal the deal. SpongeBob's finally achieved his dream of being scary, until a jellyfish drops by to ruin the fun. Eventually, the Krusty Krab figures out it's SpongeBob and goes right back to laughing at him before a certain special guest finally makes it to the party. The real Flying Dutchman has made it. Treasure your souls while you still can. The Dutchman's aggravated that his likeness has been commodified for a holiday with Halloween costumes, with SpongeBob's awful costume being the straw that broke the camel's back. Waiting no longer, the Dutchman's ready to steal the souls of the partygoers, but can't tolerate looking at Sponge's costume any longer.
Hey, I scared him.
You know it's scary when you got a literal soul eater running for his life. Oh, and the rest of the Krusty Krab as well. Luckily, that's no brain, that's just a pink hat, right?
Oh, that's not a hat. That's my brain. Don't worry.
Well,
it
at
grows
least
back.
it grows back. Now, okay, as creepy as that scene is already, they were originally gonna double down on it and show this extra gross close-up of the botched shaving job. If I saw that as a kid, I may have just dropped dead on the spot. Now, if my mom had caught me watching this one as a kid, I'd have also been dead on the spot. Behold, Sailor Mouth, aka the one with the bad words.
Hello, customers. Nice day we're having, huh?
Sometimes I wish I could just walk into a place and say that sort of thing. This episode starts and SpongeBob's taking out the trash when he catches some less than classy dumpster writing.
Do you kiss your mother with that mouth?
Well, sometimes, but not recently.
Hi, garbage man.
With how pleasant Krabs' reputation is, I can only imagine what words people would write on dumpsters to describe him. SpongeBob's confused by the word, though, and asks Patrick what it means, who explains it's a sentence enhancer that's sprinkled in to make things more fancy. And so, the two start using these enhancers in all of their sentences, even bringing it to work the very next day.
How the are you?
Pretty good, SpongeBob.
Attention, customers! Today's special is
I thought this was a restaurant, not a guttermouth convention.
There's a time and place for everything, and during a work shift in front of children and the elderly is neither time nor place. When the two's bad language scares off all the Krusty Krabs' customers, Eugene calls the boys over and gives them a good chewing out, explaining that they were using the number 11 bad word of the total list of bad words.
There are 13 bad words.
Don't you mean there are only 7?
Not if you're a sailor.
wow.
13 bad words, huh? Let me think. Oh, there's fuck, and then there's shit. Oh, who could forget about ass? You know I did that on purpose. Oh, I guess you could say on porpoise. I'm cringe even for myself, guys. I'm sorry. The two promise Mr. Krabs to never use the word again before going home to play a lovely, not infuriating at all game of eels and escalators. Patrick keeps getting escalators while SpongeBob can't break his streak of rolling eels. And when he needs an escalator roll more than ever,
Ha! Escalators!
you know, if you played pretty much any board game ever, you can't blame SpongeBob at all here. Though this scene could have been much worse. In fact, in the original cut of the scene, SpongeBob tells Patrick to, and I quote, "Go fuck yourself." Though the writers decided to change it up to make it harder for kids to decipher what was said. Though, if you're curious as to what this version is saying,
Me!
yeah, they really pushed the boundaries with this one. Makes you wish there was a full uncensored version out there. I'm sure there is. Anywho, Patrick goes to tattle on SpongeBob for using bad word number 11, but accidentally says it himself on the way there, meaning now it's a race to see who can snitch on who first, and it looks like Pat's got the upper hand here.
At the Krusty Krab! Ha ha ha!
Mr. Krabs! Mr. Krabs!
I spoke too soon. The two finally make it to the Krusty Krab and try to get their blabbering out of their system, but Eugene wants them to dumb it down for him, snatching their lips to keep things coherent.
Is need to tell me. Understand?
He said...
Do my ears deceive me?
I don't know why he's so surprised. What else would these two barnacle heads be so upset over at this point? As punishment, Eugene forces the boys to paint the Krusty Krab, or at least he would have if he didn't stub his toe.
Foot? What? Genius, what a rocket of bath! Can't you see I got a foot here? Oh!
Even as someone who hates stubbing their toe, I can't imagine a single person who likes it. Saying all 13 bad words immediately after doing so is overboard. Also, legendary. Apparently, SpongeBob and Patrick agree as well, though, rushing off to tell Mama Krabs all about her son's naughty language. The two make it to Mrs. Krabs' place and start spouting their indecipherable curse babble, but when it all finally processes through her old noggin, the worst thing possible happens.
Poor old heart.
Oh, dear mother. What have these foul-mouthed heathens done to you? You two should be ashamed.
Swearing enough to make an old lady faint? I didn't even know that was possible. As punishment, Mama Krabs has all the boys paint her place because apparently that's just the way you punish folks for using foul language. However, while the boys paint, Mama Krabs manages to stub her toe as well, and as you'd expect.
Foot!
Mother!
Though shockingly, this isn't what it looks like.
Howdy, Mrs. K!
Though what's even weirder is the fact that the very first episode of the show didn't even have its iconic theme song. Though we'll get to that soon, as Help Wanted also has a few other deleted bits that we've got to cover. There's a lot of reasons this pilot is rarely broadcast. We love licensing issues. Considering this is the very first episode of the series, things start off by giving us an introduction to SpongeBob SquarePants himself, catchphrases and all.
I'm ready! I'm ready! I'm ready! I'm ready!
It's It's just crazy how famous this phrase became despite it kind of disappearing for most of the series. So SpongeBob's off to the Krusty Krab to interview for their open fry cook position. It takes a bit of help from Patrick to give him the encouragement he needs, but now that he's over his fear, there's no doubt SpongeBob is gonna ace this thing. Man, he is totally flopping this job interview. Literally. Dude, cut me some slack, man. I'm running off of like 3 hours of sleep. Squidward does anything but vouch for the sponge, so Mr. Krabs puts the wannabe fry cook to the test. Fetch a certain spatula, and he's welcome aboard the Krusty Crew. Only issue, that spatula don't exist. Though karma quickly smacks Squiddy and Krabs in the face as a bus full of customers roll in just as SpongeBob leaves, with Krabs quickly picking up on the severity of the situation because these customers are no ordinary customers. They are...
Smell it. That smell. A kind of smelly smell. A smelly smell that smells smelly.
Anchovies.
The Horde quickly takes over the restaurant and plunges it into a total wave of chaos, crashing the duo into a wooden scaffold to cling on for their dear lives. Thankfully, someone comes in clutch at just the right time.
One order of spatula. That's right.
Spatula technology has come quite a long way. SpongeBob takes his futuristic flipper to the kitchen and immediately gets to serving the anchovies at record pace, accompanied by some Tiny Tim music as well, which, with copyright and licensing and all that, kind of makes this episode a bit rare as is. Eventually, SpongeBob sends the anchovies home happy and sends Mr. Krabs to his captain's quarters with a fat sack of cash officially earning himself the job. Patrick walks in to give SpongeBob his first order as a full-time employee, but SpongeBob may have underestimated the power of his new spatula.
What would you like to order, Patrick?
1 Krabby Patty, please.
I sure hope Patrick can afford all those patties. Though besides this thing kind of being a rare episode in general, there's an even rarer version of it that's been lost in its entirety from way before the show hit the airwaves, back when SpongeBob was known as Sponge Boy, with the only remnant of it being this piece of art. And if you want to see even more deleted scene goodness, there's of course the original intro for the show.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Super generic piece, TBH. The official song is much more iconic and everyone knew it. Speaking of iconic, there's not many endings to episodes that are more iconic than this one from Graveyard Shift.
Nosferatu!
But what if I told you that the original version of this episode had a different ending entirely? I'll explain in due time. First things first, the episode starts off with the Krusty Krab during closing time, but one fish didn't quite get the memo.
I can't hang out here all night. I've got a life.
Well, fine, if you don't want my money.
Money?
To anyone who works the service industry and has experienced customers like this, I'm so sorry. I feel your pain. And so does Squidward. Eugene officially makes the Krusty Krab a 24-hour restaurant and welcomes SpongeBob and Squidward to the night shift. And of course, Mr. Krabs leaves early. And if I were these two, I think I just want to be put out of my misery, so I can't blame Squidward for what he does next.
Here, please hit me as hard as you can.
Squidward, I'm working in the kitchen. At night.
Don't hold back.
Nothing quite like getting bludgeoned with a bat.
So while SpongeBob starts to enjoy his normal shift activities at night, he finally meets his match when it comes to taking out the trash. That outdoor undersea darkness scares him at first, but thankfully SpongeBob eventually finds his courage to take out the trash.
Piece of cake.
Oh, you're not afraid?
Actually, I may not call that courage. After the garbage debacle, Squidward sees SpongeBob's fear of the dark and decides to play with it, telling him the story of the hash-slinging slasher.
The sash ringing, the trash singing, mash flinging, the flash springing, ringing, the crash dinging.
Oh, come on, Sponge Boy. It's not that much of a tongue twister. No, I couldn't do it. I couldn't say that when I was a kid, I'll be real. So Squidward tells SpongeBob the slasher's horrifying origin story. An old fried cook, just like SpongeBob, got a little too clumsy one day. Instead of cutting the patties, he cut his arm clean off.
You mean like this? Or like this? Or this?
Or a sponge.
So?
So it didn't grow back!
Terrifying, I know. After running into the street and getting hit by a bus, the slasher decided to replace his missing arm with a rusty spatula, and now returns to the Krusty Krab every Tuesday night to enact his revenge upon the restaurant that cost him his arm. Oh yeah, it's Tuesday, by the way. Luckily, there are signs to tell that the slasher is approaching. First, the lights will flicker on and off. Then the phone will ring, but there will be nobody there. And finally, he'll arrive on the ghost of the bus that killed him. Slowly walk up to the counter. And, well, do you really want to know what happens next? Do you really want to know?
He gets ya!
Squidward short-circuited SpongeBob with that one. He sounds like a broken record, like me. Luckily, Squid explains it was all jokes, so there's no reason to worry, right? Well, nah, you know this episode. Later that night, something eerily familiar starts to happen.
The lights will flicker on and off, just like the story. I get it.
Hey,
Squid's face there is priceless. You can tell his insides just did a backflip. To make matters worse, Squiddy gets a call, and you guessed it, nobody's there. And finally, to complete the vengeful prophecy, a bus arrives at an unholy hour and drops off a mysterious passenger. Oh yeah, you bet your bottom dollar I'm pooping bricks. I'm done. The slasher walks into the restaurant after Squiddy and SpongeBob say their goodbyes to one another. They accept their fate. The slasher takes another step and...
welcome here! Can I have a job application? I brought my own spatula. I called earlier, but I hung up because I was
Maybe
nervous.
this dude can take SpongeBob and Squidward's night shift jobs. Obviously, they aren't cut out for it. But with that dude being responsible for the phone and the bus, that just leaves the question of why the lights are flickering. But I think we all know the culprit.
Nosferatu!
Everyone's favorite German expressionism vampire. Though initially the light flicker was none other than Floorboard Larry. Don't know who that is? Well, apparently SpongeBob was going to deliver mail to him earlier in the episode, and by the end of it, it was going to be him who was flickering the lights all along. Honestly, he doesn't hit nearly as hard as Nosferatu, so I'm glad they went with that ending. Though if we're talking deleted scenes, Midlife Crustation has got to be discussed, because pretty much all of its scenes have been deleted at this point. It's a banned episode after all, and for a very good reason.
Frilly things! We hit the jackpot!
Crazy that this flew by the censors for so many years. To kick things off, Mr. Krabs is waking up and he feels odd. His crusty eyes, crusty legs, and crusty breakfast make up his morning, as well as...
Open up! It's time for the pill!
Oh, barnacles, I hate the pill.
That's supposed to help Eugene? Nuh-uh, that's a full-on choking hazard right there. Mr. Krabs asks Pearl if she thinks he's cool, but realizes he isn't quite the hip youngster he used to be, especially after his trip to work, where he's walked across the street by a Boy Scout, the ultimate sign of being crusty. Things don't ease up when the geezer turns out to the Krusty Krab either.
My Krabby Patty tastes funny.
Well, it's all old and dried out, like that man right there. Now put that thing where it belongs.
These bikini bottomites are ruthless. That was very uncalled for. At that moment, Patrick shows up eagerly, yells to SpongeBob about their big plans with the town leader that night. Mr. Krabs overhears and desperately wants in on their young fun, casually tossing in the idea of having a third friend join their party.
I don't know, SpongeBob. He might cramp our style.
I think Krabs may have more style in one claw than Patrick does in his entire body, but I digress. The two show up to Mr. Krabs' place later that night, fashionably late, of course, by 1 minute, and with everyone ready to party, they hit the streets in their chick magnet.
It's more like a chick repellent, and there's only 2 seats.
Honestly, what was Mr. K expecting from a guy without a license? The gang turns up to the wash and makes sure to keep a cool face before heading inside, but Eugene quickly realizes that this club lives up to its name a little too well.
Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? Art thou feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? You feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? Shh.
I mean, I'm a shy guy. I probably would get a bit more enjoyment from an actual laundromat than I would a hectic nightclub. But Krabs still craves for something that'll give him that feeling of adrenaline. The boys ensure they've got him covered, but SpongeBob and Patrick's ideas of fun are interesting, to say the least.
I guess you're gonna miss the panty raid.
Panty raid? You're talking about girls, right? Girls?
Yeah. This scene will be quoted until the end of time, and I have no qualms with that. It's hilarious. By the time the gang makes it to a kiddie place, Mr. Krabs is definitely feeling the adrenaline, but not in a good way. He loses it, wrecking the entire playground before calling the boys lame. Though things take a turn when Pat mentions the final stop on their night of debauchery.
Being young again. Woo-hoo! You finally came through for me, boys.
Take a wild guess as to why this entire episode has been pulled from streamers and broadcast nowadays. The two break into a lady's house, start raiding her underwear cabinet, and I think it's official, Mr. Krabs is finally feeling it. Okay, maybe he's feeling a regret more so than anything right now. Mama Krabs quickly grounds Eugene for snatching her bloomers, but hey, at least Mr. Krabs finally feels young again in his race car bed. Again, this one's banned for a reason, folks. I vividly remember this episode as well. Though there's a ton of other shows that have had scenes cut or entire episodes pulled from ever airing again. Click on the screen to see just how bad some of these other shows got.